Hello everyone, welcome back to the Rayman Marathon, and I hope you all had a great Christmas and New Year's. Whether you got drunk, ate a bunch of food, or whatever you do to celebrate, I hope you had a great time with your families, as I know I did. Hence why this video was pushed back a bit, but now we're back with Rayman 2, The Great Escape. As stated in the last video, there are many versions of this game that you can pick up and play, but for this video, I went with the Dreamcast version. As for why I chose this version in particular, after some research, it was the one that people seem to agree was the best version, outside of the few who liked the PS2 version for the better graphics and the voice acting. However, having played the PS2 version myself, the constant pausing to save and the long load times made it kinda annoying to play for me. I can't confirm if the load times are better on original hardware for the Dreamcast version though, as this was played on an emulator for recording purposes. But that's enough of that. Let's get into Rayman 2 proper. So after booting up the game and setting a new save, you get the opening cutscene. And the first thing you see is slavery. Yeah, Rayman 2 is a tonal shift from the first game. Everything is darker and more dreary, and that's because in between the first and second game, these pirates have taken over the world and enslaved the inhabitants, including Rayman himself. He lost his powers in between the first game and now, but thanks to his best friend Globox, he gets his basic powers back as he smuggled in a silver lum for Rayman when he was captured by the pirates. The silver lum was given to him by Lee the Fairy. With Rayman's basic powers back, he and Globox break out of the ship and fall into the forest below, somehow not breaking all of their bones in the process. After the fall, Rayman and Globox are separated, and in comes another new character, Murphy. He's the basic tutorial guy in this game, who you can summon by holding down on the D-pad on these panels with his face on it. His appearance in this game is just that though, so nothing much to comment on. Anyways, after a basic tutorial, you find Globox's kids, which surprises me because that means someone had sex with Globox and wanted his children, and need I say more about that? I mean, look at him. They think Globox is with Rayman, but he has to explain that they were separated after the escape, but he says he will go find him again after he finds Lee and sets her free. Later, you find a cage full of teensies and all of them are claiming to be the king. I love these guys so much. They literally take the crown off each other's heads and argue over who is the real king, which is pretty funny and charming to me. Anyways, after Rayman asks where Lee is, one of them tells you that they have been taken to the Fairy Glade by the pirates and trapped in a pirate stronghold, and the only way to get to her is through the Isle of Doors, a magic place that leads to other worlds that only the teensies know how to get to. Passage through these doors or portals require yellow lums, which are pieces of the heart of the world which were broken into 1,000 pieces by the invading pirates. I'm guessing the Great Protoon was retconned for this, which honestly I'm okay with because this is more interesting than the Great Protoon, so Once Rayman goes to the portal, you arrive at the Isle of Doors, which is the world map of the game. It's simple, does its job, and even tells you how many lums and cages you have, but I'll talk about those when I get to the gameplay section. After busting through some pirates, you find Lee, who after you save her explains to Rayman that in order to get rid of the pirates, they would need the help with the Polocus, as he is the spirit of the world and has immense power. Only problem is that he's been secluded for years, but according to legend, he can be reawakened by reuniting the Four Masks. Not his Four Masks, the Four Masks. That are also hidden in mysterious places, heavy quotation. That's pretty much the rest of the game from here, finding the Four Masks, helping out the locals of the world, and putting aside to Razorbeard, who is the leader of the pirates. Honestly, Razorbeard as a villain is just okay. He mostly just sits around and yells at his minions to do stuff for him, but gets angrier and angrier when they come back and tell him that Rayman has retrieved one of the masks. They set him up to be an intimidating villain though, when literally in the beginning of the game, he eats a yellow lum. Like seriously, he actually just eats the poor thing, and in game, the lum counter just goes from 1,000 lums to 999. He's definitely a step up from Mr. Dark in that regard, and his final boss in the end is satisfying to beat as well. I will say though, this game had me going for a moment. When they showed the ship self-destructing and showing Rayman's lone shoe on the Polocus statue. All the characters gathered around and were mourning him as if he died, and I thought for sure that that was actually the case, and they were going to make me go back and get everything in the game so I can get some sort of good ending. But it was just a fake out. Thank God. Through it all, the story in this game was entertaining to me, and Rayman himself is such a sweetheart in this game, the way he helps out the different locals, and despite the cheery tone, it still feels like Rayman to me, even after coming off the happy-go-lucky Rayman 1. The tone is not the only difference between these two games though, the whole entire gameplay is totally different. Unlike Rayman 1, if you couldn't tell already, this isn't a 2D side-scrolling platformer, it's a 3D action platformer, which is a bold move to immediately jump to 3D for your second game, especially when your IP is so new. 3D games were still fairly new around this time, so the only thing you really could go up against was Mario 64 3 years prior and Sonic Adventure, which released only a month before this game, along with other notable 3D platformers at the time. But I would say that they made the jump almost perfectly. A lot of the main things that made Rayman 1 unique, like his design and how he felt to control, was almost translated seamlessly into 3D. His new model doesn't look bad and is a good design for him, honestly. Although now that we're in the third dimension, he tends to look a bit dopey at certain angles. The controls are also tight and fluid. Grabbing on the ledge still gives you a ledge hang animation that you can instantly jump out of, and things still have that snappy feel and pace that made the first game fun to control. The way they handle combat is something I definitely liked. Rayman, just like in the first game, can shoot his fist, although in this game it's more like a shiny projectile than actual fist, but that's besides the point. Shooting your fist in this game goes way farther than it ever did in the first game, which makes combat have a focus on positioning and spacing, as the pirates also have a huge range when it comes to projectiles. What helps is that in combat, Rayman can strafe, which makes combat encounters way more comfortable and making dodging the bullets the pirates shoot fun. There isn't much an enemy variety though. You got the red pirates who are the basic goons. Some of them have drills and they can go underground and instantly reposition themselves, which can trip you up. There's also these blue monkey robot looking guys who you have to bait to running off cliffs. There's also these weird, huge barrel dudes who shock you, but they stand still and take a lot of damage, so they aren't really a threat. Besides them, there are also things like dead grandmas, I don't know what else to call these things, and other creepy things in the game. They aren't really worth going over because a lot of these guys die in one hit, so I didn't really think much about the enemies that didn't have a health bar. Throughout the game, Lee will give you different powers to help you on your journey. She's basically the Matilda of this game, although some of the things she gives you are the same powers as Rayman 1, like the ability to grapple onto these hooks, although in this game they're referred to as purple lums. She also gets the ability to fly on one level, but you let her lose that ability sadly. But my personal favorite is the ability to charge your fist, as when you do, you get this golden ball of energy that decimates enemy health if it connects, and also causes the screen to go black, which looks pretty cool. If you find the golden fist power up in certain levels, then it allows you to shoot these fully charged shots without charging, making you feel unstoppable. Unless you're me and you get hit a lot and lose it in like 3 hits. Damn it. Outside of combat though, this game is a decently challenging platformer. Not ball-bustingly hard like the first game, but not afraid to crank the challenge up in certain levels, which I appreciate. Progressing from level to level is usually just a straight shot to the end, but the reason why you might want to look around is for 2 reasons. Cages and yellow lums. Yellow lums are required to beat the game, as when you get to a door that's right before the mask or boss of that area, the teensies need a certain amount of lums to open the portal beyond the door. They seem to have gotten a system now to determine whether who's the king though, which is really cute. Once you have enough lums, you can go through and fight the boss and get the mask. I never encountered a time where I didn't have the yellow lums needed to progress through the game, so it's fairly generous. Just keep an eye out for them in the levels and you should be fine. On to reason number 2, there are cages scattered around the game, and in each level there is a different amount of them. For every 10 cages you break, Rayman gets a permanent health upgrade, which is awesome because by the end of the game, you become a tank essentially with how much health you have, and it will take more than just a few shots to down you. If you get every yellow lum and cage in the level, you have the option to enter these bonus levels, and I'll be honest, I hate these. You have to mash the fuck out of the jump and shoot buttons, and it's not a simple hit both at the same time either. It's more like hit jump then jump then shoot really fast, and I never once won any of these. It was starting to hurt my fingers. I'm not a Mario Party player. My fingers are not built for punishment. It's funny because later in the game you get one minigame race where you play as Rayman and have a Chantra race with Lee, and the whole time I just thought, man, these should have been the minigames instead, because this is actually fun. You even get a gold fist at the end for winning, which is nice. Unlike some of the bosses in this game, which in my opinion were too easy, like the first one with the slide where after you get close to him he just disappears and then poof, mask is yours. One of them I didn't even know was a boss, like this pirate dude. I just thought he was a variant of a normal goon. There were a few good challenges, like the guardian of this cave and how you had to shoot the skull platform in order to get closer to him, or my personal favorite, which was this buff, derpy Bill Cipher looking guy. At first I was confused because when I died, Lee was like, hit the stalactites, and I didn't know they were even there, but once I did, it became a fun fight of reflexes that I really enjoyed. The final boss's first phase was pretty cool and felt climactic, but the playing part at the bottom when the footholds fell through took some getting used to, but after I did, it was satisfying to beat. In fact, these little rocket dudes are frequent in the game, and once you tame one, you can't stop unless you crash or, well, just crash. There are other gimmicky things in this game, like this chair minigame or these explosive barrels you have to throw at things. Sometimes you need to toss them up in the air so you can shoot oncoming projectiles with your fists so it won't hit the barrel out of your hands. The plums also make a return in this game, but these plums have to be genetically modified because look at this shit! This plum has to be enchanted with Fire Protection 5 or infused with a fire shield or something to pull this bullshit off. Mutated plums aside, Rayman 2 is a good game, one that is definitely worthy of your time if you want a fun 3D platformer. Also, the characters and lore of this world is also something very neat and interesting to learn about. I haven't mentioned this, but in the beginning of the game, yellow limbs are also told to you that they can unlock secrets of the world, which by holding up on the D-pad on special panels on the ground, you get to learn more about the world and how it's made, which is really cool. I won't go over it because it's a lot of text to cover, and you could probably look it up and read it on a wiki. Plus, you have to 100% the game in order to get all of it, and after my experience with the first game, no thank you. Even though this game probably isn't that bad to complete. I almost got everything in my first playthrough, so that should tell you how much better this game is for completion than the first game. Also, just throwing this out there, Uglet exists, and now we know who birthed Globox's children. The next game up in the Rayman Marathon is Rayman 3 Hoodlum Havoc. I haven't played this game in over a year. I played it periodically, but haven't played it from start to finish in a while. Will it still hold up? Will it still be good? Will I still like it? Well, find out in the next review. But until then, I hope y'all have a good day or evening, and I'll be heading out. Peace.